So you're the first thing that I'm noticing is your compings at this point are sort of random, like in what you use, because you know certain voicings, and you know them in certain ranges. But when you're playing at anything on the piano, you're doing more than the part of more than one instrument.
Sure.
So the first thing that you need to do is get the entire roll of an instrument like down for that instrument. The comping, you could relate it to guitar, because you have comping on guitar pretty much down.
Right.
I'm assuming, because you were great when I heard you years ago. So when you're doing comping, you don't want to be like,
Sure.
You want to be like, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Which all that is it's taking the various types of comping, and I'm like peeling apart pieces of the onion to get to the basics of it right now. You're taking different. To get there, you need to take all the different types of comping, which are like starting from 1, 3, 5, 7, and then this is just for the F minor, and then going 3, 5, 7, 9, right? That's a comping, so that's a little bit more of an interesting comping.
Sure.
You can move the 9 down and have a crunch voicing. You can move the 7 down and have a crunch voicing over the 7.
Sure.
You can even move the 5 down and have that low voicing, but it gets muddy as soon as you get down to middle C, to lower to the C below middle C there. So learn all of those 9 compings. Learn all of those like dominant 7/9 compings. All the flat 9s. Augmented, yeah. All that, but I barely ever really use those. I would do like a sharp 9 augmented.
Okay.
So
he wants to focus on technique.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, do you have to leave?
Make sure you know.
Do you have to leave right at 8?
I don't have a strict time.
Okay, do you, Mom? Do you have another lesson right after this?
No, I'm done.
So we can keep going a little bit.
Okay.
So you need to do all of those, but not with your right hand. You need to do them with your left hand.
That's the
I'm
thing.
doing the example with my right hand, but you're actually you need to do it there, and there, and there, and there. Like you need to know all of these voicings, all the possibilities of it, and you need to mathematically go through it from the root, from the base of it, which is just simply dominant 7, minor 7, minor 9, and then all the variations thereof.
Right.
And you need to do that in every single key, so that when you go from an F minor to a B flat minor, you're not skipping from here to like the next one that you happen to know off the top of your head that's actually this.
Exactly.
You're skipping from this to the closest voicing where the notes don't have to move as much.
So it's like economy of motion, basically.
Exactly. So you'd move to that. Or you can move to this. But you wouldn't do anything else. So then when you're soloing, you have your guitarist is down here, and your sax player or trumpet player is up here. Then you can actually do patterns and then complement it with your rhythmic voicings.
Sure.
And then your comping rhythms. I actually didn't write that down, but that's one thing I heard. Rhythms. You should just go transcribe the rhythms on the the big bassy record, whatever they call it.
Atomic bass.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Just transcribe all of the, like, not all of them. There aren't that many rhythms that he even uses because it's very homogeneous.
Right.
Just transcribe like some of the rhythms that the big band does, because that's all that you're doing when you're, whether it's two-handed comping. It's like this call and response thing that's pretty basic,
Right.
but it's very specific.
Sure.
You need to know what that is, or else your comping is going to sound random.
Right.
And then you can expand from there as it gets to more people do it differently in modern contexts. But that's the rhythmic work you're going to have to do. and you put those two together, and then your left hand is solid.
Sure.
What you then have to do is get your two-handed comping together,
Mhm.
which all that is drop two voicings. If you want to do like to take the, I mean, there are different ways of creating it. But I'm pretty sure, and I'm gonna put this online, so all the YouTube people will probably correct me, and I'm probably wrong. But I think you take the second voicing down and you move it down an octave. So if you have like an F minor 9, this is F in your bass, and this is an F minor 9 because you don't need the F there. You take this 7 and you go down to the 7 below it, and then you have a nice spread 4-note voicing.
Sure.
And then if you switch it to the B flat that would come after that, B flat minor, you take the second from the top note, move it down. So then what it looks like in real time is it's a very logical pattern,
Sure.
and it's descending in a way that is done throughout the history of Western music that you can see in Bach chorales and even stuff before that.
Yeah.
Once you have that and the rhythmic content and then the ability to do that, you can also add a fifth voice if you want to, or do like the Herbie voicing where you do octaves up here. That's another way to do it, but you have to do that in every single key, in every single variation, so that when you go from an F minor to a B flat, well, you wouldn't use that voicing, you would use whatever that voicing. When you go from that as an F minor voicing, you know exactly where to go for the B flat minor voicing, and where you go to the when it's an E flat augmented 7, whichever wherever you want to go from there. And then you'll have the logic for comping and for soloing. For bass lines, you just need to transcribe either Jimmy Smith in the left hand of his organ bass or any great bassist.
Yeah.
But you actually have to know the bass, because that was another thing that I was noticing is like like the bass lines were just kind of like staying on the root or doing triads or things that didn't make musical sense. But you'll find that when you transcribe things like, if you transcribe the bass lines from Kind of Blue, which is a great example, it's always like there's contour to it, and there's motion, and there's like they're using goal notes and like setting them and then going back to them and using all this thematic material that you can intuitively learn if you transcribe the bass. And then you'll have all those basics of the piano itself covered. And if you don't do it that way, then when you get into a context where you have to be malleable and you haven't pre-learned the whole thing, then you won't really be able to hang in the like improvisatory context of it. And the whole purpose of jazz is improvisatory. Right. So it'll take a lot of time and a lot of dedication, but you could probably do it in a short period of time, because I think you learn pretty quickly. And I've got a bunch of videos on all that stuff too on the website. So, which I'll show you. This is the one I'm going to upload this to.
Sure.
Okay, so we did two-handed. We did. Oh yeah, for soloing.
So wait, real quick. Do you upload like entire lessons, or do you do like fragments of lessons?
Both.
Both. Okay.
I've got a ton of material where I'm just doing little snippets where I like am not even teaching a lesson, but I'm just talking about a concept. And then I've got some snippets from lessons, and then I've got a couple of entire lessons that I've uploaded.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It's just a bunch of random stuff. And then for the soloing, it's just transcribing, really.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a bebop licks sheet. I'm sure you probably have it for guitar, right? Do you have like some vocabulary
I
that
have,
you learned on guitar?
a while ago, yeah.
Like, just learn that same stuff. Like,
Sure.
to be able to do learn that and know why it works, which I have some videos on why licks like that work, and then do it in all the keys. And then up a half step.
Omnibook is really good for that, I found.
The Omnibook?
The Charlie
Oh
Parker
yeah, the
transcription
Charlie
book,
Parker Omnibook. Yeah,
that
yeah.
helped me a lot. With
Yeah, all the licks are based on Bird's licks anyway.
Mhm.
So, but don't do. I mean, you can. It's good to do the whole solos, but like pick a single lick, and do that. I've also got a bebop cliches sheet up on the website.
Awesome.
It's got like 20 bebop cliches that are good to know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and transcribe for soloing, but then take what you learned about comping in the left hand and put it into the context of your solo that you've transcribed.
Okay.
and then that's how you'll like open up these different avenues for actual improvisation in the context
Makes sense.
of playing the piano, because then you're being the bass, you're being the guitarist, and you're being the horn player all at the same time, or like just being the guitarist if you're just comping, you know. But it all relates to other instruments.
Makes sense.
And sustain pedal, I would just recommend not using it for a while.
Okay.
And then bringing it in very gradually, only when you need it. Because like if I'm walking a bass line and comping for Autumn Leaves, Autumn Leaves.
All the things you are.
All the things you are. Duh. I'm not using the pedal at all, and I don't even want to, because if I do, it's going to be like... It makes no, yeah, it makes no sense. There's no need for it, because every single time you play a quarter note in the bass, you'd have to lift up the sustain. It doesn't make sense in the first place. If you're playing like long, if you're doing solo piano, like it makes sense because you want it to hold out, and you need that to stay there while you get to the next place. But if you don't need it, don't use it, because otherwise it just makes everything muddy. And a single note played with the sustain pedal is muddy. It's got all the other notes in it, as opposed to that. This piano's a little out of tune, but you get the point.
I was just noticing that.
So, okay, now that we've got through that, that's like the basics of piano that would be good for you to just like be able to go to a session and hang on the piano.
So, would you recommend starting with your left hand, or with my left hand? Would you recommend that as like a good place to start from where I'm at?
No, I sort of started that just because that's the first thing I noticed. But the first thing I would start with is two-handed comping.
Okay.
Because then that's the first thing you're going to use when you go into a session.
Okay.
So in fact, I'll write this down. I'll give you that which I'm writing down.
That'd
so
be great.
Order of operations. Two-handed comping. All voicings, all modes, all keys. And when I say voicings and modes, I'm just referring to major, minor, dominant 7, minor 7, then the sharp and flat 9s. Maybe put the 11 and 13 in there if you want to.
Good deal.
So two-handed comping is first, then left-handed comping, then left-hand comping with melody, then left-hand comping with soloing, then bass line with comping, or with right-hand comping, then bass line with right-hand melody and soloing. And then try to put all three together if you can. Bass line with comping and melody, which then you're basically like you're like kind of, I mean, if you were doing all the things you are sorry. Whatever I'm doing.
Like a saxophone piano duet where you have to cover like a lot of ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. Okay. Which I've not done in a long time, and I've been on tour, so I'm very out of practice. So yeah, that's like the order of operations for all that. Now let's talk about. Do you have any specific questions about that before we go into technique?
Well, what might be like, just for the first few steps there, like if you have like one reference point, or like could pick one song or one head that I could apply it to?
I mean, that's a great one. All the Things You Are is great.
Yeah.
It's harder. Autumn Leaves is easier, because
Okay.
it's just 2-5-1s, so
Right.
it'll be quicker to get that, but it'll also be more limiting, because All the Things You Are takes you through a lot of keys, and
Right.
so it'll be more challenging, but you will be more you'll have the ability to improvise more if you get through that one than if you do.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because it has the half diminished chords in there, it has the altered chords in there, so it gets you working different chord shapes more maybe than Autumn Leaves would.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know how to think of half diminished chords, right?
Yeah, like minor 6.
Yeah, you could do
Type
minor
of-
6, or you could do dominant 7 based on the based on which is the dominant 7, like half diminished. I sort of think of that as like B flat dominant with the sharp 11.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
or F minor with the major 6 and 7 is a good way to think of it too, because then you're outlining the F. You know.
Great.
What else? Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Should we go on to technique real quick?
Please. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Play something for me again. I just want to watch it.
Anything? Or
Play that same song. Doesn't matter.
sure. What would I do technically?
Okay. So I think I know what's wrong. So the way that you've learned is you've tried to cram a lot of variables into a short amount of practice time, I think.
Okay.
And when you do that, there's a lot of thought that goes into the specific notes that you're playing, but you're sort of skipping a lot of steps when you do that in the process of actually learning how to be in touch with the instrument. Because it takes a long time to really, to naturally have a touch on the piano, and to have in your mind what the key bed looks like in all possible ways when you look at it, like seeing all the possible variables, variations. So if you're trying to just learn all the things you are, and then you pick, okay, here's the first chord, and then this is the second chord, and then this is the third chord, and then that's the fourth one, and then you spend time kind of kicking yourself trying to, okay, got it, and then that's all you can do. First of all, you're going to be really tense every time you get to any single one of those chords.
Sure.
Because you haven't given it the proper, just going from here to here is a thing.
Right.
Going from here to here is a thing. But when you put the two together, that's a thing. And when you put, all of these together, and then if you were doing it properly and you went to that, even that is a whole, it's a big, it's significant.
Yeah.
And if you don't train your brain to do it intuitively, then you're going to be thinking about it every time, and you're going to tense up and try to move and find it. And there's a big difference between this and this. Can you see the difference in my hand?
Do it.
Want to do that? Like this? Even just one note.
Yeah.
My hand is that's how I play it. Right? There's that, and then there's that.
So it looks like there's some more tension in your joints, almost.
Well, the muscles are working, and they don't need to.
Okay.
The muscles need to move only the amount that they have to go to get to the note, but they don't have to be like that second time. This muscle is pulling at those joints, and this muscle is pulling at those joints, and they're just canceling each other out.
Okay.
But you don't need to do that. But the only way to train your hand to not do that is by practicing with complete relaxation.
Okay.
And it takes a long time to do.
Sure.
So that's why when I first learned to do scales, which I didn't even learn my scales really until college, because I didn't have a teacher. I was playing professionally before that. I mean, I have my mom, but sorry, Mom.
She knows scales.
I have my mom, but I didn't have
Teach you scales, but you didn't want to learn.
But yeah, I didn't practice them. I didn't take regular lessons to get that under my belt until I was in college, and then my teacher then told me I really had to get it.
Yeah.
But when I got it, I literally spent 2 hours every day with the metronome at 40 beats per minute, going from the bottom of the keyboard. Mom, does this metronome
Show
work?
'em how you do it.
Does this work?
Yeah. They both do up there.
40 is literally the lowest that this will go. And I will go like this. And I'm not recommending that you do this fully because you might go insane.
Okay.
But it was this.
You still do
Not for that long. I still do this every day, but only 1 or 2 octaves.
Okay.
Explain what you're doing.
I'm just doing a C major scale really, really slowly. And as I'm doing it, this is something that Lawrence Hopgood showed me. Do you know who he is?
Sounds very familiar.
He was Kurt Elling's pianist for a while.
Okay.
Now he's got his own career thing going. He showed me, like, which I don't actually play like this, but it's a good way to practice relaxation, and a good way to start out when you want to use relaxed muscles is you play the note, and then you take the center of your wrist and you move it to the next note, and then you just let your wrist fall, and then that next note that's there, like, you're lifting this up and you're just letting it up. You're not pulling, you're just letting it up. You're letting, like, the weight of the key push itself up.
Oh, okay.
And then on this finger, you're just letting the weight of your wrist pull that down. The weight of your arm really traveling through your wrist, and the center point of your wrist is that note, so then that note naturally comes down. And it'll push this note down a little bit, but not enough to actually play it. And it's completely free of tension.
Okay.
And you do it as softly and sensitively as you can. And right now, daily I do this, but I only do it in one octave.
Okay.
And then I do it with metronome. So that's just major scales, right? Like, you want to be able to do, like, you want to be able to do that with complete relaxation. But when I do it, I'm not thinking about it, and it's only because I've repeated it so many times and done it from the basics, which are, like, calculating out. Create a spreadsheet for yourself of exactly everything that you need to get into muscle memory.
Okay.
Which is all the stuff that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And then execute that, but execute it super slowly. Like as slowly as you need to have no tension when you're doing it. Because if you find yourself, like, thinking about the next note and then, like, grabbing it, you probably have tension in your hand.
Right.
And it will probably cause damage over time. You have to ingrain things into muscle memory piece by piece, very, very slowly.
Okay.
So, for example, doing the drop 2 voicings, like, practice all of them and I have a video specifically on this, but as far as, like, the rate at which you learn them, like, pick the let's see, what would it be? Pick, like, F minor 9, right?
Yep.
And then do the drop 2, so that goes down there. You have that, and just, like, get that one chord until you can play it with no tension. And if you feel like there's tension, then stop, like, shake your hands out and start with only one note. Start with this top note and just, like, let the weight of your arm fall onto it.
I see. Okay.
And then for that next note, then get that note, get it alone. Let the weight of your arm fall into it, and then do both together. And at first it'll be difficult to do that. Like, this note will be a little louder than that note, or this note will be louder than that note, or one won't play. And you have to just keep doing it over and over again, relaxed. Like, make sure you don't tense up until you have it perfectly. And then add this, so you can play that perfectly. And then that, so you can play that perfectly. Now you have that chord, right?
Right.
So now pick the next iteration of what the drop 2 voicing would be, which, like, maybe it's, let's see. Maybe if it's this, that's not really actually what I would do, because then if you bring that down, you don't want to have a minor 9 crunch in there. So that would be your voicing.
Sure.
And I explained this more thoroughly in the specific drop 2 video, but so that's your next voicing. So do the same thing with that. If it's tense, like, get the first one, then the second one, the third one, be able to do that. And now be able to switch between the two. That voicing, then the next voicing up, then the next voicing up, and then you're back up to the octave. But be able to do that until you can do this effortlessly up and down the keyboard, right? And then go up a half step and do the same thing. But just that, like, just getting F could take you 3 hours, you know? And it's a matter, if you want to be able to play without tension, it's a matter of putting in that time.
Yeah.
And then if you don't want to put in all of that time for the whole breadth of the piano, because it's a lot to learn, pick the specific things that you want to be able to do and do those with that technique of taking it very, very, very slowly.
Okay.
Because that's what generally the masters have done, and what people will tell you who have gotten great at any instrument. It's like you take it down to the absolute basics and you learn it without effort. You learn, or without tension.
Yeah.
I mean, the effort is there in sitting and doing, but it's not a frustrating process.
Right.
Because if you're trying to do more than you can do, then you're doing too much at that time. You don't need to like
Makes
kick
sense.
yourself to learn more. You know, your brain will absorb at a certain rate, and you just have to follow along and feed it information at that rate at which it will learn.
One kind of related but kind of off topic. What about like upper body posture?
Oh, yeah, I'm terrible right now.
Yeah, this is
Mine is
No,
not-
mine's always bad. So.
Yeah. Well, I actually just got this thing called an Upright Pro, I think it's called. Upright something. It's like a little device you put on the back of your neck, and then it'll vibrate if you slouch, and it shows your
Interesting.
it shows on your phone how often you're slouching.
That's funny.
It's like gives you the percentage of slouching to upright. So I wear that now when I meditate and when I practice sometimes. But it is a matter of, so the posture, like let me see your posture. Like sit how you feel like good posture would be. Well, let me see where your back is. Okay, I mean that's not bad. Well, the misnomer is like your hips are you're a little bit like, if I take off my jacket.
You want to lean a little forward, right?
It's not that you want to lean a little forward. It's that a straight back is not this. This is not straight.
Right.
This is me sticking out my chest and curving my back. A straight back actually is tucking your pelvis in a little bit and allowing your spine to sit on your hips.
Oh.
So you're like, you know, so try.
Did you want to maintain
Yeah, so
the curve
that's
in
a
your
little bit better right there. But then your upper body, now bring your head up, not up like that, but like bring your cranium back a little bit over your shoulders. So what we tend, that's actually much better.
Okay.
But now you have the same thing that I do on your back. You naturally slouch a little bit, and so your back is trained to, like, you're not sitting up straight right now.
Right.
And I don't think you, try to pull up a little bit. It's probably uncomfortable right now, but that's what you should be doing. Your head should be like lifted up and sitting on your spine,
Okay.
like that.
Imagine a string through
And then-
your head
Okay.
pulling it up.
And then your spine should be straight down, sitting on your hips, and your hips should be just grounded into the seat, and your legs your feet flat on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not. Yeah, that's better, and it's not easy to do. Your shoulders are at the right spot.
Okay.
Like you don't want to pull your shoulders back. You want to have them a little bit forward, and your head up. Like it's just like the straighter your spine can be, the better. But it doesn't feel straight when it's actually straight. Is the problem?
Right.
You know, it like hyperextends naturally when you think you're straightening it.
Sure. Because you're trying to go like
Yeah,
that, and you're actually
exactly.
being
Yeah.
I
unnatural.
think one of the most common things is scrunching your shoulders and you don't know it.
That
you know,
too. I think I
touching
find
your
that
shoulders.
sometimes.
Yeah. You want to let your shoulders just lean forward a little bit.
Okay.
And I would recommend getting one of those things, like $80, and then you put it on your back, and they'll tell you if you're like, because you can do this, but then as soon as you start concentrating on something else, it's really easy to just like slouch forward.
Sure.
I do it all the time. Yeah. So that's and then your hands, like lift your hands up like this. Yeah. So that's good. Now rest it on the keyboard as though you would play. Okay. So your wrist, like you don't need to go like this first of all.
Okay.
don't try to make it so your hand is straight like that. Just like your there should be more of a straight line like into the that's a little bit better, and your hand doesn't have to be up like that.
Okay.
It can be like this. Now that's the other element of playing relaxed. Like the first thing I told you is very valid, but it's a starting point. The next place I want you to get to after that is a method of contrary motion with the fingers.
Okay.
Whereas if you were to play like just that 5-note pattern, play that for me. Yeah, so you're doing it with a pretty classical technique where you lift your fingers up, but there's inherently a lot of tension in that, and I used to play like that, but the technique that Herbie showed me this because he personally uses it, you don't lift your fingers up at all.
Okay.
You just if this is your hand and you want to keep your wrists sort of straight, like straight meaning that there is a bump up here and it like widens, you know, but like your wrist is going straight through, so there's sort of a straight line.
I see.
If your hand was held here and you like saw your fingers, if you move this down and this up to press, you're not going like this. You're just moving this down and this up at the same time in a very like just basic contrary motion.
Okay.
So you're just wiggling your fingers. You're not putting any tension or any pressure.
I see.
And you're doubling the movement when you lift up and then come down. So you're doing twice as
Doubling
many
the work.
movements
Yeah. Okay.
as just going down.
Mm-hmm.
Go up and down. And I just learned this summer at the piano convention.
So
I lifted
so, but your
hard-
hand is also too high to be able to do it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there you go. So just don't even do that. Just do these two fingers.
Okay.
Very slowly. Yeah, lift your hand up and like shake it out a little bit. Now just put your hand down, like sort of plop it down, and now press just your first finger, and now like switch it with your second finger. Okay, that was better. Yeah, that was better. Yeah, now do it without the notes, just like that.
It's opposite the way I was taught.
You know, most of the motion is coming from this joint right here.
Okay.
It's not. I'm not even adjusting
Not so
really.
much the forefinger.
Yeah, you don't need
Okay.
to.
I see.
It's like the least amount of motion that you can get is from this joint,
Okay.
and it moves your entire finger, like this. Do you see that? Do that.
Yeah.
Do that. Just like hold your hand like this
Mm-hmm.
to the side and do that. See, you naturally move like this.
The rest of your right.
Which is gonna. I like when I do that, I feel tension. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. Yeah, but don't like pulse it.
Okay.
Just hold this down. But like you're using this joint. You don't need to hold that down a little bit. Just there you go.
Okay.
And now switch it with your other finger. Yeah, but you're also there's tension there.
Yeah.
Like you can see it in that joint, and you can see it from because it's shaking a little bit down there. So just move that first finger down, and then then switch it with your middle finger. Yeah, but do it again, but don't put your middle finger that far down.
Okay.
So there.
There's that.
Yeah,
Down there.
that's better.
Okay.
But you're also like hold your hand so I can see it like that. Do it again.
So like.
Yeah, well actually, see your fingers don't need to be. They can be more flat.
Okay.
Yeah, like
that.
well your wrist's
Not
flat
too flat though.
and your hand wrist flat like that.
Okay.
And your hand like that.
Okay.
And now just move this finger down a little bit. Now switch it with your other one. Yeah, but you went way too far.
Right.
It's
Okay.
you're used to putting so much effort into it. Just go like this.
Same with me. I can't.
Yeah, there you go. That's much better. You're straightening your fingers like that, which you don't want to do. Relax them and see if you can do it. You're not relaxing. You're just moving them down.
Okay.
So, that's it.
Okay.
And pull them up a little bit more. Now do it. But like keep it. Just
Okay.
keep it up there. And now do it just up there. Now, but you're straightening them. You're causing tension.
So like.
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay.
No, it's still too low, but
Mhm.
but like, I mean, it's gonna. it's gonna take some practice getting it.
Okay.
But now take that and just go down and do that. Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to make it.
Yeah, you're sort
kind
of. Yeah, that's a little better though.
Mhm.
Like, straighten, flatten. There you go. Try it again. Yeah, and this, so there's a motion that's happening where that's like going straight there. Just let it, this is the most natural position you
Okay.
could be in.
You want the-
Let it
keep the
stay
curve
there so that
Mm.
that knuckle is still curved.
So you have to have a firm fingertip, don't you, Greg?
Not really. It naturally, like, it'll stay like that. I mean, I guess I am using a little bit of that to.
Yeah, I think you have to learn to keep that firm.
So there should be really not much change happening right
should be
there
zero
at all.
change there.
Okay. That
The
makes
only
more
change
sense.
that's happening actually is right here.
Okay.
Because I'm not bending my fingers anymore
Yeah.
when I do that.
Okay.
And so do this with the Behringer. I don't think it's Behringer. Behringer was the composer, but
Behringer,
is a different.
the instrument manufacturer.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I'm not sure. But it's an exercise book.
It's this,
Do you have it here?
yeah.
Where this is the first exercise that's in it.
Oscar?
Yep, that's it.
You actually have copies of it.
So there's that.
Here.
Um,
It's copies of the book.
and I have it online also, the whole thing. So
Oh,
you
great.
do?
so you can just download it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's this, right?
Yep, it's that. So this is the first exercise. It's just all 5 fingers up and down, and then minor, and then Phrygian, or maybe that's Locrian. I think that's Locrian, and then up a half step. But what I also do that every day. I started at 60 beats per minute, even still, so
Okay.
that I can practice.
If you want, I can copy these 2 pages for you.
I mean, it's also online.
That'd be great.
So
Either way.
I do this, and I practice just thinking about the relaxation and the contrary motion
Mm-hmm.
of the fingers. You know?
So one other thing I noticed, don't mean to sidetrack again,
Mhm.
but in terms of like each finger, the placement on the key and like where, because I noticed sometimes I have a habit to go maybe further back than I need to go, and it
Mhm.
would affect the overall dynamic of the note.
Mhm.
So where is like your default center point?
I mean, I stay as far to the edge as I can because it
Okay.
requires the least effort. Because of the physics of it, the further to the edge you go, the less pressure you have to put.
Makes sense.
So I say like this is where my fingers would be. So like sort of in the center, with the thumbs like right on the edge of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm playing like, sometimes you have to if your hand's angled like that, and this
Right.
is way up there,
Depends on
that's
the
up
chord.
there. It really depends on the chord. And the more that you do it, and the more that you do it in a slow manner, your muscles will automatically learn how to adjust to where they need to be
Okay.
on the key. So if I'm see, that's like pretty close to it's up there,
Mhm.
and this was pretty far back there, but
Mhm.
my fingers know that this requires less pressure, this requires more pressure, and it doesn't change the dynamic of it because I've done it so many times. So it's like, so I think that the short answer is it comes naturally as you do the slow
Right.
exercises.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, in terms of what keyboard I use, I have like an old Baldwin upright piano.
Okay.
I have that in my basement, it needs to be tuned, but that's
Alright.
kind of what I use. I also use like a semi-weighted like MIDI keyboard, the MPK.
Oh, I hate those. Those are
yeah.
the worst, literally the worst action that exists.
Yes,
It will
exactly.
destroy your hands. Don't play
okay.
on it.
Really?
Don't play
okay.
don't play a single note on it.
What's
Like
what?
sell it tomorrow.
Sell it. No. What would you recommend as a good alternative? Then?
to the
MPK 49, just like a good MIDI keyboard.
Yeah, to the MPK 49. There's a it used to be M Audio, or maybe now it's M Audio, but there's a 49 key, $80 MIDI keyboard that is great action. It's the one that my dad has here somewhere. It's like it's just super easy, very basic, and like it's just light synthesizer action. It's like literally the cheapest one that exists. So
Okay.
you can't miss it. It has no other buttons on it. There's like there's a mod wheel and a pitch bend wheel and the keyboard. That's it.
What more do you need?
Yeah, yeah. So I would just get that. It's super easy.
Okay.
Um,
Good to know.
Yeah, but the Akai,
Yeah.
I stay away from anything they make because it will literally give you tendinitis to play on their boards because the spring action is so tense.
That could be a big part of it, actually. No, I'm glad I brought that up.
Cool. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, play real pianos whenever you can. Keyboards are hard. They
Right.
suck. Yeah. And then, but there are also some good, like the MX88, the Yamaha, the new Yamaha, like
okay.
consumer level 88 key weighted board that they made. I think it's like $1,200 or something. It's
Okay.
really nice. It's got a great piano sound, really solid action, and like I got one I have one in Italy for when I go to Italy, so I can practice on it there. And,
Okay.
like it's cheap enough you can like sort of get it as almost a throwaway board, but not really.
Okay.
You know?
Right.
And it's good to it's something you can actually practice on,
Great.
practice technique on.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool.
Cool.
I think that's all the questions that I have for now. I've got plenty to work on.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I'll put this online. You can watch it,
Great.
and other people will watch it too. And I'm sure I'll get tons of criticisms from people, and there will be a lot of constructive ones too. So
Okay. Cool.
you know.
Sounds good. As long as I'm anonymous.